everyone, it's Katrina. From a city built on a coral reef to ruins that may tell us the secrets of humanity, here are 8 of the most mysterious ancient structures in the world. Number 8. Nan Madol. Off the coast of the island of Pohnpei in Micronesia stand the ruins of the ancient city of Nan Madol. That's Pohnpei, not Pompeii, just in case. The only ancient city ever built entirely on a coral reef, the city is made up of almost 100 artificial islands made of coral fill and stone, separated by narrow canals and protected by an outer seawall. Like Easter Island, this place is an engineering marvel. The name Nan Madol means the space between and refers to the canals that cut through the ruins. The megalithic structures are estimated to have been built between the 12th and the 13th centuries, about the same time as the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. The entire city covers an area of about 75 hectares and features walls built of columnar basalt. The walls are up to 15 meters tall and 5 meters thick. The average weight of each individual stone is almost 5 tons, but some weigh as much as 50 tons. Amazingly, the total weight of the stone used to build the city is estimated to be about 750,000 metric tons. The building of such structures must have taken a Herculean effort, but nobody really knows when it was built, how the massive rocks that were used in the construction were transported to the city, or where those rocks came from in the first place. Why it was built on the reef, separated from the actual land of the island, is also a mystery. Number 7. Teotihuacan. Before Europeans came to North America, an unknown culture arose in central Mexico and built a grand city that we have come to know as Teotihuacan. In its heyday, it was a city that covered 20 square kilometers and was home to 200,000 people, all of them in carefully constructed and delineated neighborhoods where people were grouped according to the crafts that they constructed. The Teotihuacanos, as the mysterious residents have been called, left no written records, and their city predated the Aztecs by as much as 1,000 years. The city was marked with pyramids, one of which, the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent, was found to contain the bodies of over 100 human sacrifices. The city collapsed and was abandoned, and nobody knows why. We don't even know who built the city or what it was actually called. The name Teotihuacan, the place where the gods were created, was given to the city by the Aztecs, who found the city already in ruins when they entered the area. In its day, Teotihuacan was the largest city in the Western Hemisphere, but by 550 AD, it was a ghost town. Where did everybody go? And now for number 6. But first, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell if you are new here. We'd love to have you! Number 6. Puma Punku. The massive ancient city of Tiwanaku in Bolivia is dominated by a temple complex called Puma Punku that has puzzled archaeologists for decades. The city was already standing when the Inca moved into the region in 1470, although it was completely abandoned. The stone buildings of Puma Punku, an Incan name since we have no idea what the original inhabitants called it, are built with massive stone blocks that were so exquisitely shaped and fitted that even today you can't fit a knife blade between the blocks. Even more curious, none of these obviously man-made blocks show any sort of chisel marks or other signs indicating how they were constructed. Like with Teotihuacan, nobody really knows who built Puma Punku, and even its age is a matter of debate. Some scholars say that the buildings date back to about 500 BC, but others believe that this city is much, much older. What is known is that the buildings were built as ancient observatories. On the equinoxes, the sun rises directly above the center of the temple, visible through and perfectly framed by stone archways. On the summer and winter solstices, the researchers thought the sun would rise over the cornerstones, but the sunrise is actually over a different point. It's odd that a culture capable of such feats of accuracy would have failed to mark 2 of the most important dates on the ancient calendar. But if you take into account where the sunrise would have been 17,000 years ago, the cornerstones are in perfect alignment. This seems to indicate a much more ancient origin for the city. Who built it and how? Your guess is as good as mine. Number 5. Gantija, Malta. On the Mediterranean island of Gozo, one of the islands of Malta, stands a megalithic temple complex that predates the pyramids of Egypt. The 2 towers were built during the Neolithic age between 3600 and 2500 BC. They are the second oldest man-made religious structures in the world. Number 1 is coming up, so stay tuned. The temples appear to have been built to honor fertility deities. There have been many figurines and other artifacts found on the site that are associated with fertility cults. According to local folklore, they were built by a giantess, but the true builders are unknown. The Gantija complex includes 2 complete temples and a third that was never finished. They face the equinox sunrise and are enclosed inside a boundary wall, setting them apart from the daily lives of the people who worshipped there. The temples were built in a clover leaf shape with semicircular apses connected with a long central passage. The walls were covered with plaster, some of which can still be seen. The largest temple is the one furthest to the south, and it's also the most complete. It stands 6 meters tall and includes multiple altars and huge stone blocks with carved recesses, which might have been used as a place of ritual ablution or purifying baths. Based upon the sheer volume of animal bone that has been found on the site, it's conjectured that the temple was used as a site of animal sacrifice. These temples were built at a time when the wheel had not yet been introduced to Malta, and when there were no metal tools available to the islanders. Researchers have found many small spherical stones which they think were used like ball bearings to help transport the huge stones. Number 4. Stonehenge. The Salisbury Plain in England is home to possibly the most famous, mysterious megalithic structure in the world, so of course I had to mention it. Stonehenge was built from 3000 to 2000 BC, constructed in a series of stages. The site currently consists of a ring of standing stones, each stone at least 4 meters tall, 2.1 meters wide, and weighing around 25 tons. These stones are set inside a circular earthen bank and ditch, which might date back to 3100 BC. The standing stones were made of bluestone taken from the Preseli Hills, which lie about 250 kilometers away in Wales. How are the stones brought? How are they erected? That's only part of the mystery. Like many other Neolithic monuments, Stonehenge is a kind of ancient observatory, with the great trilithons aligning with the sunrise on the summer solstice and with the sunset at the winter solstice. Apart from its astronomical uses, the site was also probably used as a burial ground and a religious gathering area of sorts. Deposits of human remains have been found dating back to the very earliest stages of the monument's construction, and it has been determined that burials continued at the site for nearly 500 years. It was long believed that Stonehenge was built by the Celtic Druids, and certainly modern-day Druids have laid claim to the place. It's now thought that the monument was built by 3 different groups of ancient people, each one using a different construction style and process, all of whom predate the arrival of the Celts in Britain. Number 3. Newgrange. Another Neolithic site with important astrological alignment can be found at Newgrange in Ireland's Boyne Valley. Older than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids of Giza, Newgrange was originally believed to be a tomb, but it's actually a temple complex that was built by Stone Age farmers more than 5,200 years ago. Newgrange is a large mound that is 85 meters in diameter and 13.5 meters high, covering about 1 acre of land. It is ringed and held in place by a retaining wall of some 97 curbstones. Some of these stones are highly decorated with carvings, often with spirals or whorls. There is one doorway into the mound, which leads to a passageway that extends more than 19 meters into the man-made hill. The passage leads to a room with 3 alcoves, and the chamber and the passage are assigned with sunrise on the winter solstice. Newgrange is just one of a series of structures built along the River Boyne, making up a complex known collectively as Brúna Boyne. There are as many as 35 other smaller mounds in the complex as well. Number 2. Skara Brae. Located on the windy Orkney Islands of northern Scotland stands the Neolithic settlement known as Skara Brae. The most complete Neolithic village in Europe, Skara Brae was probably occupied between 3180 BC and 2500 BC. The site consists of 8 clustered houses, which were sunk into the mounds called middens, which were made up of domestic waste. The middens provided stability for the walls and shelter from the brutal winds that scour the islands. Each house is about 40 square meters, with a large square room holding a stone hearth that was used for heating and cooking. 7 of the 8 buildings have stone-built furnishings, including cupboards, dressers, seats, beds, and storage boxes. It's like the real-life Flintstones. The beds and dressers are in the same place in every house. Each house had a stone slab door that could be closed with a sliding bar, and there was a sophisticated drainage system. Each house had its own toilet. The 8th building was not a house and was not sunk into a midden. Instead, it seems to have been a sort of workshop with the space divided into small cubicles, where fragments of stone, bone, and antler were found. The people who lived at Skara Brae were not, as some wild-eyed folk have fantasized, an enclave of philosophers and spiritual teachers who studied the stars and other esoterica. Instead, they were pastoralists, meaning that they were settled herders who lived and died according to the welfare of their flocks. When the climate changed in 2500 BC, the residents abandoned their cold and rocky settlement and moved south, where the grazing was better. The village was gradually covered over by sand and lost until it was revealed by a blistering storm in 1850. Number 1. Göbekli Tepe. Its name is Turkish for Potbelly Hill, and it's the most recently found ancient structure on this list. Found on the plains of Anatolia, Göbekli Tepe is a man-made hill standing about 15 meters tall and about 300 meters in diameter. Who cares? Well, it's about 11,000 years old, making it the oldest temple structure in the world. The temple was built in 2 phases. During the first phase, more than 200 pillars and about 20 circles were erected. Each pillar is about 6 meters tall and weighs up to 10 tons. They are fitted into sockets that were dug into the bedrock. The second phase saw smaller pillars that were set up in rectangular rooms that had floors polished with lime. The site was abandoned in the Neolithic era for reasons that remain a mystery. The site was excavated by a German archaeological team directed by Klaus Schmidt from 1996 until he passed away in 2014. Schmidt compared the site to a cathedral, believing that it was a place where people intermittently gathered for religious reasons. The site was a place of pilgrimage for people coming from as far as 150 kilometers. The remnants of butchered and cooked animal waste have been found, indicating food was prepared for large numbers of people. Although there have been no graves yet found at the site, Schmidt was convinced that Göbekli Tepe was a central location for a cult of the dead. The 2017 discovery of human skulls with deliberate incisions might support that theory. There are more questions than answers about Göbekli Tepe because only 5% of the site has been excavated. What is certain is that since it is so old, this site may be a window into the way that mankind first developed its concept of religion, making Göbekli Tepe one of the most important early human monuments ever found. Thanks for watching! What did you think of these sites? Have you ever been to any of them? Do you have any theories about these unanswered questions? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and I'll see you soon. Bye!